Yo, when I first saw the Suicide Squad in the theater, I left with a bad taste in my mouth. I've seen every James Gunn directed movie in the theaters, but I was shocked at how off the mark this one was for me. It felt way too long, surprisingly childish, and missing some really key characterization and thematic follow-through that would have knocked it out of the park otherwise. I didn't see any negative critical reviews though. I think pandemic 2021 Hollywood box office was in desperate need of a little stimulus package, so it probably wasn't the best time to dunk on the movie, especially considering that James Gunn was bringing actual jobs into the market. After all, by Gunn's account, the film had the biggest sets ever built for a Warner Brothers film, including the Jotunheim set, which was the size of 3 football fields. Now, after the Disney firing and rehiring, the man's back on the upswing, having gone on record about how writing and directing the Suicide Squad and now the Peacemaker show has been the highlight of his career. And for a dude who got majorly fucked by the House of Mouse, he was definitely owed at least one project where he could do what he wanted to do.
This has been truly the greatest, most exciting journey of my life making this film.
The Suicide Squad isn't a bad movie, and Gunn is not a bad writer, nor a bad director. The Suicide Squad was produced for a whopping $185 million and still came in on time and under budget without any reshoots. From what I can tell, Gunn has a tight-knit group of friends who adore him, an active fan base, and a long track record of writing and directing gigantic hit movies since the early 2000s. He even retweeted my brother and I's Groot and Bolty Halloween costumes one time. Anyway, I really didn't like the Suicide Squad. Right off the bat, from the movie's first scene, something didn't sit right with me. Back again was James Gunn's signature dark humor, but there wasn't that toothy grin underneath it all. No sly wink or good-heartedness. Immediately, this movie felt mean. Now, all of Gunn's R-rated movies have insane amounts of gore, but Death in the Suicide Squad is different. People don't just lose limbs, they're ripped to shreds. Characters don't just blow up, they explode into wet chunks like they're in the microwave. At every opportunity, the film seems to take a certain relish in hurting people. It's not just that it's gory, it's mean-spirited. Too many things happen in this film that make you feel bad, or sometimes just to make you feel bad. Gunn's done this far better in movies like Super, where its graphic violence is tied together by a strong moral understanding of the characters and the bleak, unfair world they inhabit. Rainn Wilson's Crimson Bolt is compelling because at his core, he's a genuinely good person trying to do the right thing. The comedy comes from the hyper-violent, childish way he seeks that justice, so much so that we stop agreeing with him even when we know he's right. It's oppressively funny. In the Suicide Squad, however, bad things seem to happen to characters because the core of their existence is victimhood. Violence in this movie isn't fun. It feels shitty and unavoidable because the characters are just a causality of another causality. Everyone is oppressed by something, and in all cases, that something is the US government, which could be an interesting direction, if not for how shallow it's presented.
Harley Quinn's fire and rebellion in the face of American oppression is something to which my entire country aspires.
Oh.
The Suicide Squad doesn't seriously want to tackle the issues it brings up. It only borrows the concept of American imperialism as an excuse for its world building. It's pop college philosophy that only goes so far to explain why everyone acts so shitty to each other. But the movie isn't even organized enough to be about nothing. Gunn is having too much fun playing with his toys to fully commit to the film's inherent nihilism. And when he doesn't, his characters spend so much time trauma bonding that it's hard to critique its effectiveness without sounding like an asshole. Oh well, but where it actually hurts the film is by ridding everyone of their agency, by blaming their problems on something else. Starro is oppressed by Greaves. Greaves is oppressed by the General. Bloodsport was oppressed by his dad. Peacemaker was oppressed by his dad. Polka Dot Man was oppressed by his mom. The Squad is oppressed by Waller. Waller's staff is oppressed by Waller. Waller's oppressed by the US government. The US government oppresses everyone. Great, which is compelling enough on its own, without the characters whining about it. There's victims, and then there's people who act like victims. These guys are the latter. Cleo Cazo moans about the American dream, despite the fact that she was arrested trying to rob a bank, which is some version of everyone on the Squad's story. Even her actress Daniela Melchior stated that she hopes Cleo can come back in another movie as an actual villain, because in this one, she's a good-hearted millennial.
Millennials.
At least Bloodsport says in the beginning of the film that he knows he's no good. But as for everyone else, it's a massive oversight that robs these would-be bad guys of their bad guyness, while simultaneously ignoring how viciously they treat their enemies. The movie won't let you forget that everyone's a victim until it's time to watch an angry clown woman in pigtails murder a bunch of Spanish guys with a javelin. My annoyance isn't that it should tie into some kind of elaborate metaphor. It's that in the context of their world, nothing means anything. It's violence for violence's sake. More simply, the world is mean and it's not my fault. But then whose fault is it? This wouldn't even be that big a problem if Gunn's other films didn't make me feel genuine emotion. Like, what is this? How am I supposed to feel? These characters are neither good nor bad, simultaneously too cruel and too nice to each other. No one is a villain, and no one has any superpowers. Instead, everyone is played as likable because they're misunderstood. You know this because at random moments, characters will share their entire backstory for no reason. The film tries to answer this lack of agency by having those that survive decide to stand for something in the finale, but it's not communicated why this is a big deal for them. Kind of feels like it's not really. Exacerbated by the fact that, with the exception of a few, we don't actually get to know who these characters are and what they fight for. I know things about them. Abner's mom was mean, King Shark has no friends, but like, who is this guy? What does he want most in life? The characters are a little too thinly drawn and swing somewhere between cliche and an amiable marvelness. Entertaining, but little depth. And with no one standing up as the central villain to test our main characters, placeholder baddies are put in their place to be murdered horrifically every half hour on the half hour. America itself is too ephemeral a bad guy for the Suicide Squad to fight. So the film ends up having little to no character-defining conflict and suffers horribly without a main antagonist to ground the narrative. It could be Waller, but Gunn doesn't let her be. Is Waller a savant playing 4D chess against the deep state? Or is she just terrible at her job? Gunn writes a Waller who's fed up with having to run the Suicide Squad. It's a funny place to start, but it makes the whole concept feel weaker the louder she screams at people who don't take her seriously.
I love the whole idea of the anti-heroes. I sort of like playing the badass.
Gunn's take on Waller is a clear subversion. A symptom of the America Bad theme, which positions Waller as the ineffective pincushion for the bureaucracy. And it makes her a terrible bad guy. In the Ayer Suicide Squad, she has dinner with Batman, lunch with generals, and executes her own staff.
I told you to get on the damn truck. Why'd you stay?
I was studying your girlfriend.
In this one, she's bad at golf. Both versions of the character are far out of their depth and often create the very problem they were trying to use the Suicide Squad to solve. But while one movie tries to take the character seriously to some effect, the other one does this.
This is your last motherfucking warning!
I sort of like playing the badass.
For the small amount of screen time Waller gets, taking her out of the villain role is somehow enough to destabilize the balance of the entire movie, creating a power vacuum that no villain can competently fill. And for what? What do we actually gain with this interpretation of the character? Is something happening because Waller orchestrated it, or is she just trying to take credit for it?
I told you I'd make you a leader, Dubois.
This is your last motherfucking warning!
The extent of Waller's powers are so loosely defined that you never know why she's making a decision, what ramifications will come from it, or who didn't do the research. The film tells us, neither does she.
Bloodsport's got a rat phobia.
What?
Oh, no way.
She controls
No, I
rats.
caught that. It's a disgusting superpower.
You didn't tell me you had a fear for rats, Dubois.
Waller says that the mission is more important than we can possibly imagine. It's not. It's just covering up war crimes, which feels pretty pedestrian for a bunch of supervillains, right? Even if she couldn't kill everyone on the squad at a moment's notice, which she can, or doesn't have Peacemaker on reserve to do the dirty work, which she does, wouldn't setting Starro free destroy any possible evidence anyway? The real mission should be to kill the Thinker so he doesn't blab in case Flag's feeling extra patriotic. But then why not try a missile strike? The country's already destabilized. Why not fund the rebels? Why is Waller's answer to this situation to send one team of supervillains to die needlessly on the beach while forcing an arbitrarily similar yet different group of supervillains to do the mission, and then having those supervillains double back to rescue Flag, and you know the rest. The movie doesn't have a single logically sound excuse to justify its existence, which, alright, America Bad, I get it, but it's not compelling enough of a reason for me. It sounds just like the scapegoat that it is, which is exactly how it's used. But the reason why Gunn doesn't have Waller tell her team of supervillains that the US is behind Project Starfish is to give Flag and Peacemaker a reason to fight. A plot device that relies entirely on the Thinker being in a chatty mood.
So,
The United States made a secret deal with the Koto Maltese government to conduct their illegal experiments.
It's why Flag's death really rubbed me the wrong way. It's needlessly violent in a way that makes you feel icky inside. Even more so because the reason behind it is so contrived. Flag dying doesn't make the Suicide Squad a better movie. It gives John Cena an interesting backstory for his new TV show.
You killed Rick Flag!
We don't feel bad because the writing is good. We feel bad because Joel Kinnaman is likable, and seeing him demolished by John Cena is hard to watch, especially after surviving the first movie. I know Kinnaman only had so much time to appear in this one, and it almost didn't work with his schedule, but yeah, this one rubbed me wrong. For Waller and Peacemaker though, apparently it's just another day. Shh, back to sleep. But it just goes to show that in the Suicide Squad, there's a clear writer's bias between those that live and those that are viciously rendered into pulp. Or in other words, in Super, Rainn Wilson's character Frank tapes these words to his wall. Frank feels that he's meant for something greater, despite not realizing that he's reinforcing the very idea that's used by others to oppress him. Some of his children, aka not him. In the Suicide Squad, however, some of his children literally are chosen, and the lines that divide Gunn's chosen action figures are glaringly obvious. I think a common criticism from most people that have seen the movie is that we were all actually pretty excited to see what Team 1 was going to do. The idea of killing them all at the beach hangs heavy over the beginning of the movie, not because you think they're all going to die immediately, but because you know that they can. But then Gunn actually does it.
I'm the one who called you!
The results are really anticlimactic for me, except Weasel and TDK. TDK gets a pass forever. So fucking funny. But the big question for me going into the movie was, what surprise character was going to steal the show? After the transition to Team 2, it felt annoying to be told that actually these are the characters I'm supposed to invest in. I felt robbed of the opportunity of seeing a new character stand out and charm me. And the characters that survive, like Harley and Flag, feel less relatable the longer they're allowed to survive impossible situations, which doesn't make sense when they had so many characters to kill in a way that services the narrative. This shouldn't have been a problem, but it's one of this film's biggest. The balance of who can die right off the bat feels totally out of whack. But the cherry on top of the narrative pie is that after all the promises that anyone can die, not a single solitary character on the squad dies for the next 1 hour and 10 minutes of runtime.
What?
I thought that having a goofy stockpile of James Gunn's friends meant that they'd stretch the deaths over the film's runtime, keeping up the tension. But Gunn blows his load all at once in the first 10 minutes and regulates all the rest of the movie's deaths to the third act when you already expect the movie is going to start killing people because the movie's ending soon. What it creates in between is this massive no man's land of runtime where it feels like nothing happens.
I ain't got nobody.
First 10 minutes, and it doesn't stop. Like, you figure they're gonna get a chance to catch your breath, you don't.
It's because the illusion that anyone can die is replaced by only characters Gunn wants to die can die.
Anyone can die in a James Gunn movie, particularly a Suicide Squad movie.
It's why deaths like Flag feel so calculated. And when Peacemaker threatens Cleo, you know she'll be fine. Just like you know that so will Peacemaker after this. But until all that, you better get used to your new best friends. I mean, sure, you like Polka Dot Man and Cleo Kazo and Nanawe, but I didn't feel like I chose them. It felt like they were being foisted upon me by the movie because there's literally no one else left to kill off because we're still at the beginning of the movie. The movie tries to make up for this by manipulating me into liking them, by watching them do relatable things. But that's unfair to these characters too. While we're on it, I also didn't appreciate that the only 2 flashbacks in the movie take place at the beach and immediately following Flag's death. These are probably the 2 worst moments to interrupt the movie. They were the only 2 moments that I was really invested. Following the shock on the beach, the flashback really drags me down. It takes way too long to get back to what's going on, but by that time, the movie's already over the fact that it just nuked half of its cast all at once. But honestly, none of this would be a big deal for me if they hadn't gotten rid of Captain Boom Boom. Find me a single comment section that doesn't bemoan the untimely death of Captain Boomerang. This is a character that has what the professionals call sauce. He pops every second he's on screen. He's antagonistic, he's a total dick, he's a hell of a lot of fun.
We're in a butcher's freezer house. Only they don't know it yet.
Leave him alone, Boomer.
Is this thing a dog?
A dog?
Yes.
What? What kind of dog do you think it is, mate?
He's got great comedic timing. His boomerangs are sick as fuck. Though we only get to see him throw them once. His outfit looks awesome. Look, he even tried to stop that shill, Pete Davidson, from selling out the team. Now, I don't know if Jai Courtney came back begging to be killed immediately. I don't know if there was a chance he could have been in the rest of the movie. I don't know if Gunn literally had no interest in writing him.
What do you think that James saw in each of you?
Me? But then when it comes down to these trees, it shoves all that shit into your face.
Okay. Probably someone that had played the character before.
Consistency.
I think Gunn underestimated the chemistry these returning characters and actors have for each other. Because whenever I see them together, all too briefly on screen, there's a lot of love. I appreciate that Gunn wanted to do his own thing, but not taking advantage of things like this feels like a wasted opportunity.
I think there are definitely some Boomerang fans who are going to be upset when they see the opening of the movie.
As a result, I think that one thing the Suicide Squad gets the most wrong is balancing out how these characters engage with each other on screen. We end up getting thrown party scenes without feeling like the film's actually earned them yet, or getting extended action scenes featuring his favorite squad members. When it comes to character balance, Squid Game, or even the Hunger Games get right, but the Suicide Squad gets wrong about seeing relatable characters who are trying to kill each other, forced by circumstance to work together. The reason why is because these characters are not supervillains. They're superheroes. The only thing being a villain appears to do is make you able to kill people. The Punisher kills people, but he's not a supervillain. Supervillains don't just kill. They plot, they steal, they break the rules, they backstab. They steal candy from kids. They should be trying to kill Flag, not party with him. They should be trying to backstab each other, not save the world. These characters fail when they're positioned into roles that aren't suited for them. Casting Bloodsport as the main character is a big miscalculation because he doesn't have any equity in the film's stakes. The more he grumbles around, it just starts to feel like a character insert for the audience to experience Gunn's true favorite, Cleo Caso, a character which Gunn couldn't help but not kill.
You remind me of my daughter. The reason I'm here.
Bloodsport's relationship with Cleo provides enough personal equity in the story that he doesn't need to bother with leading the narrative too. Though in the film, this relationship is only used to instigate a one-time standoff with Peacemaker, because no matter how much they try to dial Flag back, there's no real opportunity, save for the end, for Bloodsport to actually lead, especially when they spend the entire film getting along anyway. So why act like he's the leader?
I told you I'd make you a leader, Dubois.
Bloodsport is already introduced as being a friend of Flag's. That's a dynamic that could have been explored more as a supporting character, especially if they want to play Flag as more straight-laced, while Bloodsport clearly has no problems being as mean as Peacemaker when it comes to killing. If the film needs anyone to carry the stakes of the narrative, it's Flag, because he does. Flag is the one actually leading the mission, and his job of herding cats, trying to get the squad to work together, is instantly more hilarious and more relatable to me.
If we find out you have personalized license plates, you die.
What? No.
I didn't pick the damn team!
It also gives everyone else room in the story to just be themselves. And if anyone needed the movie to be taken away from them, it's Harley Quinn. When placed front and center, I don't think Harley is that interesting. I'm not even sure I like the way she's acted. I like Margot Robbie, but I don't like Harley. The voice and mannerisms are a little too rehearsed for someone who's supposed to be insane.
Sorry I'm late. Had to go number 2. It's like angels are splooching all over us.
It doesn't really coalesce convincingly into a character for me, the way some of the other characters do in this film. And she's a good actress. Just feels like they're using Harley wrong. What's interesting to me about Harley isn't making her this strong woman nega Avenger who can't be killed. Harley's draw should be her potential to massively fuck up any situation. Just look what she does in the movie. Harley forgets the mission, dates the bad guy, kills him, rejoins the squad. She's completely off the map. We even saw this in Ayer's squad, when she tries and fails to hard quit the movie. We definitely should have gotten more of that and less of this. Harley is Jack Sparrow, and you don't make Jack Sparrow the main character. When you have a character with the license to be a true wild card, you don't push her out of the movie. You have her accidentally shoot someone or fuck up the plan the way Peacemaker does, in a way that seems horrible and inevitable. It makes us feel silly that we actually thought the squad was going to pull this one off. If you think I'm wrong about the story and how Gunn handles his favorite characters, I want you to picture something in your mind, and it may reframe what you think this movie is actually about. What was the moment in the film with the most tension, when the air was sucked out of the theater? The scene after which the film fell steadily and naturally to its eventual conclusion. That scene is Flag's death. Maybe it shouldn't be, but either way, it feels like the movie didn't know that the whole time, Rick Flag is actually the main character. Or Rick is the center of the narrative. At least that's the way the plot is constructed in this film. But that ultimately makes him the most important person in the movie. We know this because after Rick bites it, we never get to that high level of tension or morbid satisfaction again. After his death, the story falls to Bloodsport, who only exists narratively now to resolve Flag's arc. We care about Bloodsport's confrontation with Peacemaker because we just saw him kill Flag. King Shark bouncing around like a dick and being betrayed by Jellyfish is just fluff that proves that the world they live in sucks. But we already knew that. That's why, after Bloodsport seemingly kills Peacemaker, there's no more tension in the movie. Highlighted further by the fact that there's no bad guy except Starro, who moans about wanting to float in space. Why are you attacking a city then, you big starfish? But Gunn seems to want to play Starro as the victim here, so he gets no sympathy from me. He's a conqueror from space and he dies a champion, speared by a clown woman and devoured by rats. Yuck. But the point is that aside from Polka Dot Man, who gets the dubious honor of having the film's least well-executed death,
I'm a motherfucking Superman!
The balance of the narrative doesn't warrant a death at the magnitude of Bloodsport or Cleo. Cleo's in the last important character relationship in the film, and we know Harley's gonna be fine. But really, any death after Peacemaker is a contrivance of the plot and not motivated by character, and therefore unlikely to happen. No matter how much Waller freaks out, at the point of the film's finale, there are no more character moments to play. The movie is fresh out. It used everything up by blowing all of the tension at the beach, using Flag's death as the climax in a narratively contrived scenario, and then uniting the team in a fake-out death by Waller scenario that couldn't possibly happen. After that, the movie's already over. Either Starro kills them, or they live. That's what I call a waste of potential. I like the characters in Suicide Squad a lot. I like the characters in The Suicide Squad a lot, and except where stated, their performances are genuinely wonderful. I like Taika Waititi's cameo. I like that Bloodsport is so petty. I like Sean Gunn playing another varmint character. I like James Gunn, and I like his movies a lot. For me, James Gunn is an underdog, and after the fall of Whedon, one of the last underdogs we have left, a subversive indie filmmaker whose great writing landed him a spot in the big leagues. What makes him him? What can he show of the world he comes from that other big-name directors can't? In The Suicide Squad, he blows people up, feeds them to shark, zombifies them, steps on them, and I feel nothing. Gunn picks up a character he likes and then sets them back down when he's done with them. What's lacking is depth.
What I didn't see coming was the emotional depth.
I could talk more about contrivances, like 90-pound Margot Robbie deadlifting a grown man in the air with her legs, but CinemaSins pretty much has you covered. Movies like this make me feel like big-budget cinema is light years away from being as competent and aesthetically relevant as anime and video games are today. But I don't know. One day. I know that he really enjoyed making this one, and that's great. It's just not for me. 1.1 twins out of 2.